Hans Niemann has just played one of the best games in his life with 3 brilliant moves, and here are the details. He's playing against the young Turkish player, Yaz, rated 2646, the youngest to reach 2600, and he started with e4. e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, and this is what's so-called the Petrov. Knight takes e5, d6, as you might know or you might not. Knight takes e4 is not a great move thanks to queen e2, and after that, if you move the knight, then knight c6 wins for white. That's why normally they played d6. Attacking the knight, knight f3, knight takes e4. Now if queen e2, then there's queen e7, and black is completely fine. So d4, opening things for the other bishop. d5, controlling the center as well. Bishop to d3, knight c6, attacking on d4, or pressuring at least, castling, and now bishop g4, sitting the first threat here for black. Now this is actually a threat because the knight is pinned, so the d4 pawn is no longer protected. So Hans here played c3 to support the pawn. After that, f5 came, so the knight is much more supported, and Hans played knight bd2, supporting the knight, adding more pressure to the knight on e4. Queen f6, and this is actually a super aggressive move in which Yaz probably spent almost 40 minutes here. And after queen f6, Hans thought about castling long, and he decided to do something on the queen side, playing queen a4, because this is actually the point of queen f6. So after queen a4, ideas like knight e5, making use of the pin of this knight, is coming. So castling and bishop b5 right away. Guys, this is a very important strategy. Whenever you are playing an opposite castling game, so you need to do something as fast as possible on the side where your opponent king in. So here on the queen side. Unfortunately for white, he cannot go b4, so the pawn on c3 will be taken. That's why bishop b5 actually is a great move. Not only attacking the knight and maybe some sort of doubling the pawns, but in the meantime, knight e5 will be an idea. After bishop b5, here Yaz played a very interesting move, which is knight takes d2, forcing knight takes d2 back, so the knight on f3 now is away of the e5 square, because if bishop takes d2, then there is bishop takes f3, and actually the white king side is weakened now. That's why after knight d2, knight takes d2 has to be played, and now he has played a very interesting move f4, threatening or having the idea to go f3 later on, so the f3 square will be no longer available for the knight to go to the a5 square. After f4, Hans found here the best move, which is rook e1, improving the rook, maybe making room for a knight to come back, maybe the bishop as well. And here in this position, a6 was the best move, but Yaz played f3, continues the attack and the work on the king side. So after f3, computer says, Hans, you go simply bishop takes c6, and after say b takes c6 whatever, you go g3, and you are completely better here. +2 almost, and white is doing great. Ideas like knight b3 later on, with knight c5 or bishop f4, and there's no time actually for such ideas like queen h3, but feels like the king side is a bit weakened, especially with all of these light squares. That's why after f3, Hans decided to go h3. And luckily for Hans, his opponent did not find this very strong move, f takes g2, as h takes g4 is a bad move thanks to queen h4, threatening mate n1, and if you take the pawn, then bishop d6, queen h2 threats with rook f8, with rook e8, with many stuff against this king. So Yaz here played bishop h5. After spending 10 minutes in this position, and after bishop h5, Hans played bishop takes c6. After bishop takes c6, the point actually is to make a room for the rook to the e file and not to allow, or this is actually not an option, queen takes c6. Why? Because simply after queen takes, b takes, I do believe, after ideas like g4 for example, followed by knight takes, I mean it's just a pawn up and the compensation is not clear at all. There is the bishop pair, but there is a problem with the pawn structure as well. So that's why after bishop takes c6, b takes c6, Yaz tried to keep his attacking chances as much as possible, and now a great move by Hans, which is rook e5, attacking the bishop. After that, Yaz played queen g6, protecting the bishop, threatening mate in one, but simply a g3. After g3, bishop d6 attacking the rook, but now came the first brilliant move in this position, which is knight b3. What a brilliant move. The point is, if you take the rook now, then there is this magnificent move, knight c5. I'm not going to take the bishop and losing time. No, no, no. Now I'm threatening mate in 2 actually, which is not easily, or maybe not able to be stopped at all safely. Black will be losing. That's why after knight b3, rook h2 f8 played, and this is actually not a normal move. If you play knight c5, for example, thinking you're doing fine, or you play whatever, then threats like queen takes is coming. So for example, if a3 now, and then bishop takes c5, d takes c5, ideas like queen g3, this is what I wanted to show. After queen g3, f g3, f2, threatening f1 queen, and if king f1, there's this strong move, bishop e2. And after that, a black queen will be coming, and the white king will be mated very soon. That's why, after rook h2, f8, the practical move was great by hands bishop e3. So we open the file or the rank for the rook there, so there will be no ideas like queen takes g3 later on. Rook d2 e8, keep attacking the rook and hoping for something like rook takes e8. So after rook takes e8, queen takes c6 for example, Yaz will have this very strong move, rook takes e3. After which the rook cannot be taken, as queen takes g3 followed by queen g2, queen e2 will be a checkmate. That's why in this position, Hans found the second brilliant move, which is queen takes c6. Keep sacrificing the rook, because again, the initiative, keep attacking, keep threatening is what most important, especially when the kings are on the opposite side of the board. So after queen takes c6, Yaz has nothing but taking the rook, bishop takes e5. And now, of course, the queen exchanging is not that great for black. Actually, it's losing. That's why after bishop takes e5, the check just happened. King d7, and now knight c5, another piece just joined the attack, king e7, and now instead of taking the bishop as he is, a rook down, but the queen is under the attack, queen takes d5 happened, and white is completely winning, though he is a rook down. After queen d5, queen f5 happened, because probably there will be a mate in 2 threat, which is not a mate in 2, but if the queen moves away, for example, whatever, there's queen e6, knight b7. So after queen d5, queen f5 is played, and now Hans found the third brilliant move, which is bishop g5, double exclamation mark. What a move! Now this is actually untouchable, so you cannot touch that bishop, because after that there's queen e6 check, and either queen d7 mate or knight b7 mate. So after bishop g5, rook f6 is the only move. D takes e5, attacking the rook, which is pinned. Queen takes is almost the only move. But after e takes f6, Yaz play g takes f6 and resign in the meantime, or in the same time. Why is that? Because he only had 1 minute on the clock, while Niemann had 42 minutes, and the finish is very easy. Check, you move the king away, we take the rook with check, this is the only move, we check, if you go here it's mate in 1, or sorry, it's from here, better, check, the only move, and now knight e6, we grab the queen. This is actually not the only way, but this is the most direct way, and this is probably what Niemann will play if the game continued. I hope you like the coverage of this game. Thanks for watching. Don't forget the like button. See you soon.